Hi guys, and welcome back to another weekly work knits knitting update. So I'm coming to you a day late. It has been a very busy week. I feel like I say this every week, but it's good. It's good that things are moving at such a nice pace at the moment, and I'm finding I'm getting a lot done. I'm continuing with my just do what you can do from your to-do list productivity attitude, and yeah, we're feeling chilled but productive again this week. So that's been our state of play. I hope everything has been well with you. I hope you've had a week where you've got a good balance of your knitting and your other things that you need to do. And thank you so much for making some time to come here and catch up with me. So, normally I have a cup of tea with me. It is beautiful sunny weather here. I have been dosing up on peppermint tea. I'm really enjoying that. But I think today it's going to be a water for me. But it's a Friday, so if you want to have a nice drink with you whilst you catch up with this, or indeed if you're catching up over the weekend, then please feel free to do so. And I'm going to get stuck straight in. So, last week I said to you that I was hoping to kind of clear the decks, clear the needles a little bit, finish off. I had lots of half-finished objects, and I had lots of garment projects that had been on the needles for a really long time. So that was my stated intention. I feel like I got part way. So I'm actually going to do the projects update a little bit out of order this week, and I'm going to start with how I followed through on that intention. So, weeks and weeks, if not months now ago, I finished a single sock in Gepard Garn Cash sock. It's a cashmere merino blend, and this was just a very simple vanilla sock. This one looks a little bit deep here. It looks a little bit rounded compared to how I normally like my socks, but it fits me beautifully. And this was kind of the start of a new vanilla sock recipe for me. So I knit the one, and then I got so inspired with socks that I wanted to cast on other different socks. So this is currently a lonely sock. So this week I did follow through on my intention of kind of finishing off these half-finished projects, because I did cast on the second one. However, again, sock mojo hit me, and I was actually finding the 2x2 rib really quick and easy and enjoyable. So I went from working on the second sock of this one to picking up one of my other sock projects. Now I just need to turn this one the right way around, because as usual I knit this inside out. But this is my new sock design that I've been working on, and yeah, I just got really inspired. I thought I was actually going to have this done today, but alas, not quite. But we've really enjoyed working on this. We've sped through some rows on this. So this looks a bit funny unblocked. I'm hoping with blocking it's going to sit a bit more kind of straight, and the texture's not going to bulge out so much. But what I have been really pleased with is I continued the 2x2 rib onto the heel. Now I'm not going to show you too up close because I'll do some more detailed pictures over on Instagram, but basically I've managed to continue the 2x2 rib through the contour of the heel turn and the gusset. I'm really happy with how this has gone. Right, so that was some good flow. Quick reminders in terms of what I'm using and doing with these. So as I said, this is Gepard Garn Cash sock. I'm knitting this on 2.25mm needles, little 9-inch circulars. That's my favourite. These are also being knit on 2.25. These were also on 9-inch circulars, and I always do this when I then hit the heel flap and gusset turn. I switch to magic loop because it makes sure I know for definite that I have got the toe lined up perfectly with the heel, if that makes any sense. It's not twisting. I do therefore find the foot a bit slower though on magic loop. It's not my favourite. These are being knit in the main colour is Lang Yarns Jowl sock in the kind of like a melange grey colour, and then the contrast colour for the texture is a little mini from Loom Wool, dyed up by Jess, super talented. So that's what we're doing here. Right, I'm hoping that with this gorgeous sunlight you guys can still see what's going on. Fingers crossed. Okay, so that's my little sock story. Then I did kind of follow through on wanting to get garments more finished. Now this one isn't finished. I haven't got a finished garment to show you this week. I have got a finished object. But I made some decent progress. So this is my terracotta sweater. by Leanie Holm Samso, also known as Knit. And we have finished the body, at least the front of it has now got some ribbing. The back I still need to do. I stopped following the pattern after this row of texture right here, this section of texture. There's meant to be another section of colour work, but I was holding this jumper up to my body and I want this to be quite cropped. Query, I might have made it too cropped, but I prefer to do that to begin with and then go back in and add length afterwards, because I am rapidly, and I'm looking at the cone across from me on the settee, I am rapidly running out of yarn. I mean, it still looks like loads on the cone, but bearing in mind I've got to do both sleeves. Yeah, I mean, we will have enough easily, but I just would like to get the sleeves done first before I go and add more length into the body. Details for this, if you haven't caught this on other episodes, I am knitting the first size of this, which means I will have not very much positive ease at all. I have switched between the first size and I think the second or third size because of the number of stitches I picked up at the shoulders for the front piece. And what else can I tell you? I'm trialing something down on the hem. So I've done a split hem, but I don't like the way that the stitch at the top of the split, or the stitches, plural if you do it that way, tend to pull. So I've tried a new technique. I think it has not worked perfectly, and I think I'll know what I'll do better next time. But essentially I want there to be overlap of the two hems at the side. And the other thing I've done, I don't know if you can see on camera, but I have done a section of straight knit stitches next to my ribbing as well, which I think looks really nice, and then a really clean bind off. So really happy with how that's going. And yes, as a reminder, sorry, the other details, so I'm knitting this on 4mm needles. The main colour that's on the cone is Holsgarn Super Soft Jumper Weight Wool in their Accru colourway, and then the contrast is a bright orange shade of Ficklana Arwetta, held with the bright red colour from Camaro's Midnight Soul base. And I did a little close-up of what that colour work is actually looking like, as in, I think on camera here, you don't quite get the sense of the sunsetty tones in it. Maybe you do there in that shot, but yeah, I really wanted you to be able to see how that orange and red are combining. So yeah, really, really happy with this. I actually really, really enjoyed this bit of ribbing. I am really keen to pick up the back stitches and to do the second hem. I think I might do the back hem ever so slightly longer than the front hem. Apologies, a tractor going past. But yes, I might do kind of an uneven length hem, and then it will just be picking up the neckband and then the sleeves. So as I say, I think if I had just worked on this week, I don't want to say I'd had this finished, but I would say I'd probably have at least the bottom of the hem done and one sleeve, and I'd probably be working on the second sleeve. Or if I'd got, you know, really going, yeah, potentially I could have finished it, but hey, it wasn't to be. Because I've decided to continue with the colour work all over the body, which at one point was a decision. I was just going to leave it here. So because I've done 2 more rounds of texture and a colour work section, it just requires that bit more thought, and the sleeves are going to be in full colour work as well. Well, colour work and texture alternated. So that's that project, but happy with some progress there. It does feel like I'm getting towards getting things off the needles. In terms of other garments, I didn't pick up my Big Love cardigan this week. I am going to extend the front and the back. So that's what's putting me off doing that at the moment. And it's also just not really been the weather for it. I mean, I say this and I was still knitting on a winter garment, but hey. I have not picked up my new design summer top. Again, ironic, it's beautiful summer weather, I should be working on it. I just haven't had the mojo in this last week, but I think in this next week I probably will, so that's great. So what else have I been working on? I have done 2 triangles on my little triangle scrappy project. This little triangle is a funny story actually. John Arbin at their mill open weekends sometimes have some tiny little mini skeins of, but not your standard minis, they are mini skeins of their singles that for whatever reason have not gone into a proper skein. So this is where they'll have like, maybe they've got 2 cones of singles that they're spinning together into a 2-ply, but they've got more left over on one cone than the other, so they don't quite add up. They have tiny little minis of these and they're gorgeous, and I bought a whole load, and this is one of them held double. I don't have a colourway for it, but it's just gorgeous. It's like kind of duck eggy blue colour, bluey green. And then this is a scrap from my Time to Decompress socks. This is work.knits socks, yeah, in the fingering weight base in the colourway Almadine. So that's just held singular. So yeah, 2 triangles of those were knit during a long meeting that I had, kept me focused, which was really, really good. So did those. And then there has also been a tiny bit of progress on my crocheted blanket. Basically, I have finished the pink border. I don't know how well you're going to see that on camera, but I finished the pink border the whole way around, and now, as you can see, I've picked up in the red colour. Going to do a nice thin red stripe all the way around, and then it'll be pink again and then red, and I'll alternate, and then hopefully end up on a pink as the outer one, and then I'm going to do like a fringe. So this will probably end up being kind of roughly lap blanket size. So all in exciting stuff here. But the final thing that I have been working on and have put the most time into is actually a finished object that was not even on my needles the last time we spoke. Now this is a little bit wet because I wanted to block it before this episode, and it's only half dry. And I've saved this till last. I'm going to show you I think I showed this as a finished object on the last episode, but we've got a bit of a theme. So this is my last FO that I showed you guys. This is not colourway wise, it's not showing up great on camera, but this was my self-drafted cable knit hat. Well, we've knitted another hat and the brim is flopping because it's wet and because it's beautifully drapey, but this is, let's see if I can put it on. This is a little bit big for me, but this is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. I have opted to knit this in a DK weight yarn on 4mm needles rather than 5, which is probably why it's a bit big for me. I mean, it's probably perfect for my husband, to be honest. Yes, so 4mm needles. I had bought this pattern years ago and I've never actually knit one purely to spec. I did one where I went wildly off pattern before, which I think I have shown on the podcast right back when I started. And then this is my second version and I still haven't quite followed. So I cast on the 3rd size, and then the brim is supposed to be, I'll fold that down so it doesn't keep flopping around. The brim is supposed to be a lot longer before you fold it over. And then the only other thing is on the crown decreases, I followed the technique. I just didn't, without giving away the instructions too much, I basically just skipped out one of the stitches in terms of spacing out the decreases. So that's that. I must say, whilst I understand why the pattern gets you to work a little bit in, so you work the brim, then you pull up the cast on edge and knit that with your live stitches to create this folded brim, and then the pattern gets you to knit a bit further as you were before turning and working in the opposite direction. And whilst I get this, because it means on the underside of your hat you've almost got like a bit of a facing, which I get if your brim unrolls a bit, that kind of looks nice. However, I don't love it. And my other thing with this pattern, and this is more of a personal preference, because I know lots of people like to have a thicker brim on their hats, but for me, it's too intense to go from like double thickness fabric to the singular thickness fabric on the main part of the hat. I just find the brims overly heavy. Then again, I haven't knit this at the right gauge, so if I had, maybe that would kind of balance that out a bit more, so that's probably on me. But the bit that I've kind of missed out is what yarn I have knit this up in. Now, the keen-eyed amongst you may have seen me post about this on my Instagram stories and mention that I was knitting this up in something new. I have been experimenting with dyeing my own yarn, which was something I never thought I'd be doing this year. But I am really enjoying it and I'm really happy with how the colour has turned out. It's probably not showing up 100% true on camera. I'm actually finding this particular colour really hard to capture on camera, but it's a kind of gorgeous greeny, bluey colour. Yeah, not to blow my own trumpet, but I really love it. So this will probably be a gift for my husband. I know, again, knitting things that are completely not in season right now, but I really enjoyed knitting this hat, and there is something very satisfying about knitting it in a yarn that you have dyed yourself. I knit this in DK weight yarn rather than holding 2 fingering weights together, which again, gauge wise, probably has had a little bit of an impact too. So that's my finished object for this week. Now, the aim with these videos is to keep them nice and short, so I won't keep you guys for much longer, but I was just going to share with you some random pattern inspo that I have had over the last week or so. So one thing that has been on my radar, which is very in keeping with the weather, let me just, there we go, clean my screen. The other thing I've had is camisole number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I'm hoping it's not going to stripe out too much on screen. My phone does this sometimes, the resolution doesn't work nicely with the camera. I know I mentioned this in a podcast episode a while ago, but I'm still looking at the A Wilder sweater by Boylan Knitworks. I'm also looking at an oldie but a goodie, Andrea Mowry's Alpenglow. Oh, I really hope my phone screen and the camera's gonna, is gonna be playing ball. And then 2 slightly newer ones that I don't think I have spoken about on the podcast. One is the Great Gingham Raglan by Jessie Made Designs. And very finally, the Chroma by Jacqueline Cieslak. Now, loads of people were talking about this one a while ago, and I'm very behind the curve, but I really love the look of that. So yeah, really excited about that particular pattern. So I've been getting all the pattern inspo. I've been very inspired for sweaters at the moment, which is really bizarre. I think it is partially because on the one hand, we've got this glorious sunshine here in the UK. On the other hand, we've had quite a few days of rain. So it's been very like flip-flop, and I think that's really confusing my knitting mojo. When it's sunny like this, I want to be knitting on that summer top. The minute we've got rain, I'm back to feeling cozy and wanting to knit on jumpers. The other thing I said last week that would jump on my needles is a version of the Maggie cardigan by Petite Knit. That is still the plan. But I'm finding with these weekly episodes, it's funny. Obviously, I'm not literally knitting more or less than I was before. But because I'm checking in with you once a week rather than once every 2 weeks, the difference in how much I've knitted between episodes is quite big. And I know it sounds silly, but I hadn't really expected that. I kind of thought I was working on everything simultaneously throughout the 2 weeks in between episodes. I kind of thought I was working on things concurrently. What this new schedule's teaching me is actually I'm kind of like a monogamous knitter in the sense I'll knit on one thing for a few days and then I'll switch to a different project, if that makes any sense. So I'm like monogamously working on multiple different projects. But it means that these weekly podcasts kind of slightly catch me out because sometimes I have only really worked on one project, or yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. So guys, that's my little roundup. As I say, bits of knitting, probably not as much as I would have had, but I have been very busy enjoying experimenting with dyeing, so that has taken up lots of time this week. I will be back next week, hopefully with a bit more of an update in terms of I'll show you what else I've been dyeing up and how I'm finding dyeing, and I will also hopefully have shifted a few more of these ongoing whips and completed some more of these half-finished objects. Don't know. There is a plan forming to head to the Great British Yarn Festival at the mill in Clumpton this weekend coming. So if I get to go down there, then I will let you guys know. I'll take you along with me and do a little bit of filming. That could be really, really good fun. And if so, there'll be a bonus episode up next week, or maybe I'll include it in next week's episode. Haven't quite decided yet. But yeah. I hope this week has provided you with some knitting inspo, a little bit of knitting mojo. I hope it's got you thinking about what patterns are inspiring you at the moment. Please do let me know down below if you've got any patterns that you're loving at the moment or that you really think I should consider knitting. I would love to hear that. But equally, just let me know how you're doing down below. I love to chat with you guys down below in the comments or over on Instagram. And with that, I will say have a lovely rest of week, have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye for now.